Here is the script with each sentence on its own line. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really sit with this question for a second. How many things have you started in the last year that you never finished? Maybe it was a fitness routine. Maybe it was learning a new skill, writing a book, starting a business, or finally doing that one thing you kept telling yourself you'd get to. And for a while, maybe even a few days, maybe a few weeks, you were on fire. You felt motivated. You felt like this time was different. This time, you were actually going to see it through. And then something happened. Not something dramatic, not some massive catastrophe that knocked you off course. Just life, distraction, doubt. And before you even realized it, that thing you cared so deeply about was sitting in a drawer somewhere, gathering dust, right next to the last 5 things you also never finished. If that hit a little close to home, stay with me, because what I'm about to share with you is not another lecture about discipline or willpower.
This is about something much deeper, something that most people never figure out.
And once you understand it, the way you see yourself and your potential will never be the same again. Here's what's strange about the human mind. We are wired to start things. Think about it. The excitement of beginning something new is genuinely one of the best feelings in the world. There's a rush of possibility, a sense of who you could become, a vision of the future that feels bright and real and close enough to touch. Neuroscientists actually have a word for this. It's called the fresh start effect. When we begin something new, a new goal, a new chapter, a new version of ourselves, our brain releases dopamine, the same chemical that makes you feel good when you eat something you love or hear your favorite song. Beginning feels good. And so we get addicted to beginnings. But finishing is a different beast entirely.
Finishing requires you to push through the middle.
And nobody talks about the middle.
Nobody posts about the awkward Tuesday afternoon when the motivation is gone.
The results aren't showing up yet, and everything inside you is screaming to just stop. The middle is where dreams go to die, not because people are weak, but because nobody ever prepared them for what the middle actually feels like. And this is where I want to introduce you to someone. His name is Daniel, and his story changed the way I think about all of this. Daniel was the kind of guy who had more ideas than most people have in a lifetime. Growing up, his mother used to joke that he had a new dream every week. By the time he was 25, he had started a podcast, written the first 3 chapters of a novel, signed up for a coding book, joined a gym for different times, and launched a small online store that he abandoned after 2 months. From the outside, people thought Daniel was flaky, unfocused, maybe even a little lost.
His older brother used to shake his head and say, "Man."
You've got to learn to commit to something. But here's what nobody understood about Daniel, including Daniel himself.
He wasn't starting things because he was careless.
He was starting things because every single time he genuinely believed. He believed in the podcast. He believed in the novel. He believed in the business. The problem wasn't that he lacked passion.
The problem was something buried much deeper than that.
One afternoon, Daniel's car broke down on the side of a highway. He called a tow truck and ended up talking to the driver, an older man named
Roy, for almost 2 hours.
While they waited for the flatbed to arrive,
Roy was 63 years old.
Missing 2 fingers on his left hand from a factory accident decades earlier.
and had the kind of calm, unhurried way of speaking that made you feel like time had slowed down. Daniel vented.
He told Roy everything. All the unfinished projects. All the abandoned goals. All the shame he carried quietly in his chest about never seeing anything through. Roy listened. He didn't interrupt. And when Daniel finally went quiet, Roy looked out at the passing cars and said something that Daniel would repeat for the rest of his life.
He said, "Son,
Most people don't quit because they're lazy. They quit because they're afraid of what finishing means." Daniel stared at him. "What do you mean?" And Roy said, "Starting is safe. When you're still going, you can still tell yourself the best is coming. The day you finish something, that's the day you find out if you are really as good as you hoped." I want you to let that sink in for a moment, because Roy wasn't just making a philosophical observation. He was pointing at something that psychologists call self-handicapping. And it's more common than you could ever imagine. Self-handicapping is when we unconsciously create conditions that give us an excuse not to fully try. Not because we don't care, but because caring too much is terrifying. If you never finish, you never have to face the verdict. You never have to find out if the novel was actually good, if the business was actually viable,
If you were actually capable.
Quitting becomes a protection mechanism, a way to preserve the dream without ever risking the outcome. And the most painful part, it feels like laziness from the inside. It feels like a character flaw. It feels like proof that something is wrong with you. But it's not a flaw. It's a fear response, a deeply human one. There's another piece to this that most people overlook, and it has to do with identity. Think about it this way. When you start a new habit, let's say going to the gym, you are not yet someone who goes to the gym. You are someone who is trying to go to the gym. And that gap between who you are and who you're trying to become creates a psychological tension that is exhausting to maintain every single day. You have to fight against your existing identity to take that action. Most people run out of fight.
Only ever get the chance to become.
The key, the thing that changes everything, is not motivation. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings come and go.
The key is
Identity.
The moment you stop saying, I'm trying to exercise, and start saying, I'm someone who takes care of my body, everything shifts. The action is no longer a battle. It's just an expression of who you are. Daniel didn't figure all of this out in one conversation by the side of a highway. But something cracked open that afternoon. Some door
In his mind swung open just a little bit, and enough light got through to change his direction.
He went home that night and did something that seemed almost too small to matter. He opened his laptop and looked at the 3 chapters of the novel he had written 2 years before and never touched again.
He read through them, slowly.
And for the first time, he didn't read them as proof of his failure. He read them as proof that he had started something real. He made one simple decision. He was not going to write the whole novel. He was not going to set some massive goal that would overwhelm him before he even began. He was just going to write 1 paragraph. Tonight, just 1. He wrote 4 pages. Not because he suddenly became disciplined, not because some switch flipped inside him, but because he had removed the pressure of the finish line. He had replaced the enormous, terrifying question of can I write a whole novel with the only question that actually matters in any given moment. Can I take 1 more step? And 1 more step is always answerable. Always. Here's a truth that most self-help content will never tell you, because it's not exciting enough to put on a poster. Consistency is boring. And boring is exactly what you need. We live in a world that glorifies the dramatic transformation, the overnight success, the moment where someone reaches a breaking point and suddenly changes their life forever. And those stories are real. They exist. But they are the exception, not the rule. And when you hold your ordinary Tuesday up against those extraordinary moments, it's easy to feel like you're falling behind. But progress doesn't care how it looks. Progress only cares if you show up. There's a concept in behavioral science called the today rule. The idea is simple. You can miss 1 day. Life happens. Emergencies happen. Bad days happen. But you never miss 2 days in a row. Because 1 missed day is a pause. 2 missed days is the beginning of a new habit, the habit of not doing the thing. That rule sounds almost laughably simple. But the people who've used it, really committed to it, will tell you that it changes everything. Because it shifts the conversation from perfection to resilience. And resilience is the actual skill. Not motivation. Not discipline. Resilience.
The ability to get back up after the inevitable stumble.
Without judgment. Without drama. Without starting over from zero. About 18 months after his conversation with Roy, Daniel finished the novel. It wasn't perfect. He'll be the first to tell you that.
The ending felt rushed, and there was a subplot in the middle that he knew didn't quite work.
But he finished it.
He held a printed copy in his hands and felt something he had never felt before.
Not pride exactly. though that was there too. It was more like wholeness.
Like a part of him that had been fractured for years had quietly, slowly knit itself back together. He sent it to 3 literary agents.
2 of them rejected it without response. The third one sent a short email that said, "This isn't quite right for us, but you have a real voice. Please send us your next one. Your next one." Do you understand what those 3 words meant to someone who had spent his entire adult life believing he was someone who never finished anything? He wasn't a failure. He was a writer.
He just hadn't finished yet.
So what do you do with all of this?
How do you actually change? First, stop waiting for motivation to show up before you start. Motivation follows action, not the other way around. The feeling of wanting to work comes after you begin, not before. So start ugly. Start small. Start even when you don't feel like it. Give yourself 5 minutes. Just 5. What you do with those 5 minutes will surprise you. Second, get honest about what you're actually afraid of. Sit down with yourself and ask the question, Roy asked Daniel. Not, why don't I finish things, but what would it mean if I did? Sometimes the fear is failure, but so many times, and this is the one we don't talk about enough, the fear is success, because success changes things. It raises expectations. It invites judgment. It means you can no longer hide behind potential. Third, shrink the goal until it's almost embarrassing. You want to write a book? Fine. Write 1 sentence today. You want to get fit? Fine. Put your gym shoes on.
You don't even have to go anywhere.
Just put the shoes on. The brain is not afraid of tiny steps, and tiny steps taken consistently become something extraordinary over time. Fourth, change the story you tell about yourself. Every time you catch yourself saying, "I'm the kind of person who never finishes anything," stop. Because you are not a fixed thing. You are a living, changing, evolving human being. And the story you tell yourself is not a description of who you are. It's an instruction for who you're becoming. Here is the moment I want to leave you with. There will come a day, maybe not today, maybe not this week, when you are deep in the middle of something hard. The excitement of beginning is long gone.
The reward of finishing is still nowhere in sight.
And every reasonable voice in your head will tell you that stopping makes more sense than continuing. And in that moment, I want you to remember this. The middle is not a sign that you chose the wrong thing. The middle is not evidence that you don't have what it takes. The middle is just the middle. It is the price of entry for anyone who has ever done anything worth doing. Daniel didn't become a different person. He just learned to stay in the room long enough to find out what he was made of. You already have everything you need. You don't need more motivation. You don't need better circumstances. You don't need to wait for the right moment. Because the right moment is the one where you decide quietly, firmly, without fanfare, that this time you're going to stay. Not because it's easy, but because you finally understand that the life you've been imagining is on the other side of the thing you keep almost finishing. Stay in the room. Keep going. And let yourself find out if this story moved something in you today, if it reached the part of you that still believes you can do the thing you've been putting off, then like this video. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And share it with someone in your life who needs to hear this right now.
You might never know how much it means to them.